Welcome to my expat stories. You ever see something so real, so physical, so tangible that you think there's no possible way it can be fake? That's what watching coffee beans move through a processing facility will do to you. Tonight I'm reading you a letter from Lawrence, 57 years old, insurance broker from Edinburgh, who spent 32 years assessing commercial risk for a living. Let's get into it. My name's Lawrence. I'm 57 from Edinburgh. 32 years evaluating business risks for insurance companies, and I'm about to tell you how I got absolutely destroyed by a coffee processing operation that never existed. I'd worked as an insurance broker for 32 years, right? Specialising in commercial risk assessment for manufacturing and distribution companies. At 57, I was financially comfortable, looking forward to early retirement. My wife Elizabeth and I were planning to travel more, maybe invest in a small business that would provide supplementary income without requiring full-time work. I'd always been passionate about coffee, not just drinking it, mate, understanding the entire supply chain from farm to cup. I'd visited coffee plantations in Colombia and Costa Rica on holiday, attended specialty coffee trade shows, read extensively about the growing specialty coffee market in Europe and North America. In September, I came across an article in a trade magazine about the emerging specialty coffee industry in northern Thailand. The article profiled several entrepreneurs who'd established processing facilities in Chiang Rai, working with hill tribe farmers to produce high-quality Arabica coffee for export. The economics looked compelling. Thai coffee was becoming increasingly respected in specialty markets. Cost of production was significantly lower than in traditional coffee origins. One entrepreneur mentioned in the article was Phrom Srisawat, Thai woman, early 40s, British educated. Said she'd been operating a processing facility in Chiang Rai for 7 years. The article described her work with Aka and Lisu hill tribe farmers, helping them transition from opium poppy cultivation to specialty coffee production. Commercial success and social impact story. Exactly the kind of business that appealed to me. Should have been my first red flag, shouldn't it? Too perfect. I contacted Phrom through the email address listed in the article. She responded within hours. Perfect English. Detailed information about her operation. Interest in connecting with potential investors. We exchanged several emails over the following weeks. Phrom suggested I visit Chiang Rai to see the business firsthand. In November, Elizabeth and I flew to Thailand, a few days in Bangkok, then travelled north to Chiang Rai. Phrom met us at the airport, driving a well-maintained pickup truck with her company logo on the door, Golden Triangle Coffee Company. She was in her early 40s, professional, confident, had that manner of someone who'd built a successful business through years of hard work. "Welcome to Chiang Rai," Phrom said as we drove into the mountains. Her English was flawless. Cambridge educated, she'd told me in emails. This region produces some of the best coffee in Asia. Most people outside the specialty market have no idea. That's where the opportunity lies. We drove for about an hour into increasingly mountainous terrain. Roads became narrower and steeper as we climbed into the hills where the coffee was grown. Eventually we arrived at Phром's processing facility. Large warehouse building, modern equipment visible through open doors. And here's where I got properly fooled, right? Inside that warehouse, workers were processing coffee beans through various stages. Real workers, real equipment, real coffee. Phrom explained each step, receiving the fresh picked cherries from farmers, pulping to remove the outer fruit, fermenting to develop flavour, washing, drying on raised beds, hulling to remove the parchment layer, sorting by size and quality, finally roasting and packaging for export. We work with 47 farming families across 6 villages, Phrom explained. Most of them are Aka and Lisu hill tribes. My family's originally from this region. I provide them with seedlings, training, and guaranteed purchase prices above market rates. They deliver the cherries to us, and we handle all the processing and export. She introduced us to Mongkol, Thai agricultural specialist who managed relationships with the farming communities. Mongkol spoke excellent English, clearly had deep knowledge of coffee cultivation and processing. The key to quality coffee is careful farming and processing, Mongkol explained. We train farmers in shade growing techniques, organic practices, and selective picking. Only the ripest cherries are harvested. This produces coffee that scores 85 to 90 points on the specialty coffee scale, commands premium prices in Europe. Phrom showed us storage rooms filled with bags of green coffee beans, each labelled with lot numbers, processing dates and quality scores, showed us export documentation, shipping manifests, contracts with buyers in the UK, Germany, Netherlands and France. Everything looks professionally organised. "What kind of margins are you seeing?" I asked, my insurance background kicking in. "It depends on the quality grade," Phrom said. "We pay farmers an average of 80 baht per kilogram for fresh cherries. After processing, that yields about 200 grams of green coffee beans per kilogram of cherries. Our processing costs are about 40 baht per kilogram of green beans. So our total cost is around 440 baht per kilogram. We sell to European roasters for an average of £25 per kilogram, which is about 1,000 baht. The margins are excellent." Made sense, right? Perfect sense. Over the next 2 days, Phrom took us to visit several of the farming villages. We met Thawi, introduced as the leader of the farmers' cooperative. Thawi explained how the cooperative worked, how prices were negotiated, how the transition to coffee farming had improved living standards in the communities. "Before coffee, many families grew opium poppy," Thawi said through Mongkol's translation. "Very dangerous, illegal, no future. Now we grow coffee. Legal, sustainable, good income. Khun Phrom has changed our lives." We walked through coffee plantations, saw beans drying on patios, talked with farmers about their experiences. Everything seemed genuine and well organised. The social impact story was clearly real. These communities had successfully transitioned to legal agriculture, were earning better incomes than they had from illicit crops. Or so I thought. On our third day, Phrom explained her expansion plans. The business was constrained by processing capacity. She had more farmers wanting to join the cooperative than she could handle with her current facility. She'd identified a larger warehouse building, available for lease. With additional equipment, she could double processing capacity and revenue. The total investment needed is about 12 million baht, roughly £280,000, Phrom explained. "I can put in 140,000 myself. If you could match that, we'd be equal partners in the expansion. Based on current margins and the farmers ready to supply us, we could increase annual profits from £80,000 to about £200,000 within 2 years." "What's the current ownership structure?" I asked. "I own the business outright," Phrom said. "Been building it for 7 years. But I want a partner who understands international business, someone who can help manage growth and eventually help expand exports to European markets. You've got business experience, you understand risk management, and you clearly appreciate what we're doing here. You'd be a perfect partner." Elizabeth and I discussed it that evening. The opportunity seemed solid, yeah? The business was real. The processing facility functioned efficiently. The farmers were legitimate. The market for specialty coffee was growing. Phром's social impact story added a dimension that appealed to both of us. This wasn't just about making money. It was about supporting sustainable development in impoverished communities. And having a Thai woman with local connections running it made it feel more authentic. We spent the next week doing research. I contacted several specialty coffee roasters in the UK, asked about Thai coffee generally, and Golden Triangle Coffee Company specifically. 2 of them confirmed they'd purchased coffee from Phrom and were satisfied with the quality. Except they hadn't, had they? They were fake companies. Accomplices playing their parts. I researched Thai coffee production. Found numerous articles confirming that Chiang Rai was indeed becoming an important specialty coffee origin. I researched Phrom Srisawat herself. Found interviews with her in coffee trade publications and social enterprise magazines. Photographs of her at coffee conferences. Quotes about sustainable farming practices and women in agriculture. Everything suggested she was exactly who she claimed to be. The financials also made sense. I reviewed 3 years of tax returns, profit and loss statements, bank records. The business had been consistently profitable, steady growth in both volume and revenue. The expansion projections seemed conservative and achievable. After 2 weeks of evaluation, I decided to invest. 32 years assessing commercial risk, mate. 32 years. And I couldn't spot this. We returned to Chiang Rai in December, met with Phrom and her lawyer, Thai man named Apichat. The lawyer explained the partnership structure. Golden Triangle Coffee Company would be restructured as a limited partnership. Pawn and me as equal partners. We'd each own 50%, share profits equally. Equal authority over business decisions. The partnership agreement was detailed and professionally drafted. Provisions for capital contributions. Profit distribution. Decision-making processes. Dispute resolution. Dissolution procedures. Apichat explained each clause carefully. Confirmed that the structure complied with Thai foreign investment regulations. I transferred £124,000 to the partnership's Thai bank account. Total expansion capital £248,000 as planned. The lease for the new warehouse was executed immediately. Pawn began ordering processing equipment from suppliers in Thailand and Europe. My hands were steady when I signed, right? No tremors. I was confident. I'd done my due diligence. I'd evaluated the opportunity properly, except I'd evaluated nothing real, had I? Over the next 4 months, I received regular updates via email. Photographs showing renovation progress, the warehouse being fitted with electrical systems, new drying beds being constructed, processing machinery being installed, storage areas being organised. Everything appeared to be progressing on schedule. In April, Pawn sent an email. Equipment delivery had been delayed due to supply chain issues affecting European manufacturers. This had pushed back full operational capacity by about 6 weeks. But it wouldn't affect the current harvest season since the existing facility could handle the immediate volume. I wasn't concerned. I'd worked in commercial insurance long enough to know that supply chain delays were common, especially for specialised equipment. 6 weeks seemed like a reasonable timeline issue, but 6 weeks became 3 months. By July, I was growing worried. I sent multiple emails asking for detailed updates. Pawn's responses became less frequent, more vague. She mentioned customs complications, equipment compatibility issues, staffing challenges. Nothing sounded alarm bell serious. But the accumulation of minor problems was concerning. That little voice in my head saying something's wrong? Yeah, should have listened to that. In August, I decided to fly back to Thailand without telling Pawn I was coming. I wanted to see the expansion facility myself, assess the situation independently. I arrived in Chiang Rai on a Tuesday morning, took a taxi directly to the address of the new warehouse Pawn had given me. What I found made my blood run cold. The building existed, but it was completely empty. No equipment, no renovation work, no sign that any processing activity had ever taken place there. I walked around the perimeter, peered through windows. Just a vacant warehouse with bare concrete floors and empty walls. I drove immediately to the original processing facility, where Elizabeth and I had visited 9 months earlier. When I arrived, I found a completely different business operating there. Textile manufacturing workshop, sewing machines and fabric inventory. I walked inside, asked to speak with the owner. A Thai woman came out, greeted me politely. I explained I was looking for Golden Triangle Coffee Company and Pawn Srisawat. She looked confused, said she'd never heard of them. This building had been a textile workshop for 5 years. There'd never been a coffee processing facility here. The ground seemed to tilt beneath me. I'm standing in that textile workshop, trying to make sense of what I'm seeing, right? I pulled out my phone, showed the owner photographs I'd taken during my first visit 9 months earlier. The photographs showed coffee processing equipment, bags of coffee beans, workers sorting and roasting. The owner studied them carefully. "These photographs weren't taken here," she said firmly. "The building layout is similar. We've got the same roof structure and windows, but the interior has never looked like this. I don't know where these photographs were taken, but it wasn't in my workshop. That sick feeling when your entire reality just crumbles." Yeah, that. I thanked her and left. Drove around Chiang Rai for the next 2 hours trying to call Pawn. Her phone went straight to voicemail. Tried calling Mongkol, the agricultural specialist. Disconnected. Tried calling Thawi, the cooperative leader. The number didn't exist. I went to the police station, filed a report. The officer who took my statement spoke limited English but understood enough to grasp that I was claiming fraud. He directed me to the tourist police office in Chiang Mai, about 3 hours south. I drove there immediately, spent the rest of the day giving a detailed statement to a detective. who spoke excellent English. The detective listened carefully, reviewed all my documentation, began investigating. Over the next week, what he uncovered was devastating, mate. Absolutely devastating. Golden Triangle Coffee Company had never existed as a registered business in Chiang Rai or anywhere else in Thailand. The processing facility I'd visited 9 months earlier had been temporarily staged, likely by renting warehouse space for a few days and bringing in rented equipment and hired workers. We believe they created a complete coffee processing operation just for the time you were visiting, the detective explained. The equipment was probably rented from actual coffee processors. The workers were day labourers, hired for temporary work. The bags of coffee beans were real coffee, possibly purchased specifically to create the appearance of inventory. Everything you saw was real in the physical sense, but it was assembled temporarily to deceive you. I watched coffee being processed. I smelled it, I tasted it, I touched the beans. And all of it was theatre, staged specifically for me. The farming villages I'd visited were real villages where real farmers grew coffee, but they had no connection to Phrom or Golden Triangle Coffee Company. The detective visited several of the villages, spoke with farmers. None of them had ever heard of Phrom Srisawat or sold coffee to any processing business called Golden Triangle Coffee Company. These are legitimate coffee farming communities, the detective said. They sell their coffee to various Thai processors and cooperatives. Someone simply identified these villages, learned about their coffee production, and then claimed to be working with them. The farmers had no idea they were being used as props in a fraud. Clever, innit? I hate how clever it is. Thawi, the supposed cooperative leader, didn't exist as a cooperative official in any of the villages. The detective believed he was either a hired actor or a real farmer who was paid to play a role without understanding it was part of a scam. Mongkol, the agricultural specialist, had completely vanished. His phone number was disconnected. No one in the Chiang Rai coffee industry had ever heard of him. The contracts with European coffee roasters that Phrom had shown me were elaborate forgeries. The detective contacted several of the companies listed on the documents. None of them had ever purchased coffee from Golden Triangle Coffee Company or heard of Phrom Srisawat. The shipping manifests, export documentation, and quality certifications were all fake. The level of detail is extraordinary, the detective said. These documents would fool most people because they look exactly like legitimate coffee trade paperwork. But when we verify with the actual companies and government agencies, nothing checks out. 2 UK roasters I contacted during my due diligence, who confirmed buying from Phrom had been part of the deception. The detective worked with British authorities, discovered that those businesses didn't exist. The phone numbers I'd called went to accomplices who played the role of satisfied customers. The websites I'd found appeared legitimate but were created specifically for the scam. I called them myself, mate. I did my due diligence. And they were fake. The whole lot of it was fake. The financial records showing 3 years of profitable operations were complete forgeries. The tax returns had never been filed with Thai revenue authorities. The bank statements were fake. The entire business history had been fabricated. This was a very sophisticated operation, the detective said. They invested significant time and money into creating a convincing illusion, renting a warehouse, bringing in equipment, hiring workers, purchasing actual coffee beans as props, creating detailed financial records. This probably cost them £50,000 to £60,000 to stage. But they stole over £200,000 from multiple investors. So it was a profitable investment in the scam. The detective discovered that I wasn't the only victim. There'd been at least 3 other investors over an 18-month period. A German businessman had invested £98,000. An American entrepreneur had lost £72,000. An Australian retiree had invested £56,000. Our combined losses exceeded £350,000. I eventually connected with 2 of the other victims. Hans, the German businessman, had coffee industry experience, had evaluated the operation even more thoroughly than I had. He'd brought his own coffee quality expert to test the beans and verify the processing methods. The expert confirmed everything was legitimate. I tasted the coffee myself, Hans said during our first phone call. It was excellent quality, exactly what you'd expect from high-altitude Thai Arabica. The processing was done correctly. Everything I checked confirmed it was a real operation. How was I supposed to know the entire business structure was fiction. How indeed, mate? The American victim, Robert, had done what I thought was impossible. He'd travelled to one of the farming villages unannounced, without Porn knowing, had spoken directly with farmers about the cooperative. The farmers had confirmed they grew coffee and worked with various buyers. Robert had interpreted this as verification of Porn's claims. What he hadn't understood was that the farmers weren't specifically working with Porn. They were just general coffee farmers who sold to whoever would buy. They told me what I wanted to hear because I was asking the wrong questions, Robert said. I asked if they grew coffee and sold to processing facilities. They said yes because that was true. I assumed that meant Porn's story checked out. I should have asked specifically about Golden Triangle Coffee Company by name, but I didn't think to do that. The detective's investigation revealed that Porn Srisawat wasn't who she claimed to be. The real Porn Srisawat existed. She'd studied at Cambridge, worked in agricultural development briefly, but she'd moved to Singapore in 2015 and had no connection to any coffee business. Someone had stolen her identity, used her real educational background, her real photographs, created an entire false history. The person you met was using a stolen identity, the detective explained. We don't know her real name. We've got your photographs of her, but facial recognition hasn't produced any matches in our database. She's likely part of an organised crime network that specialises in business investment fraud. The Trade magazine article that had first introduced me to Porn had been paid content, essentially an advertisement disguised as editorial journalism. The magazine hadn't verified Porn's claims or credentials. They'd simply published what she paid them to publish. Those articles then became powerful credibility markers when potential investors researched her background. Paid content. That's all it was. And I trusted it, like it was proper journalism. The lawyer Apichat, who'd prepared our partnership agreement, claimed he'd been deceived. Said Porn had presented him with what appeared to be legitimate business registration documents. He drafted the partnership agreement in good faith. The detective investigated Apichat, found no evidence he was knowingly involved. He appeared to be a legitimate lawyer who'd been used unwittingly. The scammers are careful about this, the detective said. They use real lawyers, real accountants, real service providers. That way, when you verify credentials, everything checks out. The professionals are legitimate. They just don't know they're working on a fraudulent transaction. The bank account I'd transferred money to was real, but it was controlled by individuals using false identities. My £124,000 had been moved out of Thailand within 48 hours of the transfer. The money went to accounts in Laos, then to Vietnam, then disappeared into cryptocurrency exchanges that Thai authorities couldn't access. Gone. Just gone. 3 weeks after filing the police report, the detective called with his final assessment. The perpetrators had left Thailand. The money was unrecoverable. There was virtually no chance of prosecution without knowing the real identities of the people involved, without cooperation from multiple countries. I'm very sorry, the detective said. These people are professionals who've refined this scam over many years. They understand exactly what investors will check, and they create false evidence for those specific verification methods. Unless you can independently verify business registration through government databases you access yourself, without help from anyone connected to the investment, there's no way to protect against this level of deception. I flew back to Edinburgh in September, £124,000 poorer. More than half of my retirement savings gone. I'm 59 now, still working as an insurance broker in Edinburgh. Elizabeth and I sold our larger home, moved to a smaller flat, cancelled plans for extensive travel. Early retirement's no longer possible. I worked in healthcare for 32 years assessing risk, and I never independently verified that the business legally existed. Never called the Thai government agencies myself. I just believed what I was shown because it looked professional, because I wanted it to be true. The coffee was real. The facility was real. The farmers were real. The ownership was fiction. That's my story. That was Lawrence's story. An insurance broker who spent 32 years assessing commercial risk, who visited the facility, who tasted coffee that scored 87 points in professional testing. The person calling herself Porn Srisawat had stolen the identity of a real Cambridge-educated Thai woman who'd moved to Singapore in 2015. Thanks for sharing, Lawrence. This is my Thailand stories. Catch you in the next one.